next workshop here, which is going to be dealing with fees, speed, and layer 2. Let's see if I can put this up here. Got it. Got to find my desktop 1 second. There we go. OK, beautiful. So we're going to jump into block 3 of 6. And this is our last theoretical workshop of the day. We've done the history of money. And then we looked at hashing and why we need hashing. And now we're going to look into fees, speed. And we might have time for layer 2s, but we're going to really focus on fees because they're a bit different to what we would expect. So let me have a look. That thing work? No. OK, 1 second. There we go. OK, so transactions. So obviously, Bitcoin is something that we want to use. We don't just want to understand it. We know why we need it, because the money has been broken, and fiat is not the best money. So we're moving on to a Bitcoin standard. And once we've heard about Bitcoin and we know why we need it, we want to know how it works. So we've delved into a little bit of that, which is the hashing part. That's what I wanted to focus on with you guys. And I think you did a great job. And I just want to find out, which one was your favorite workshop, just by a raise of hands. I really want to find out, was it the first one, which was trading and we were moving cards around? If it was, raise your hand. All right. So if that was your favorite one, raise your hand. Or if it was the hashing one, do you want to raise your hand? Oh, wow. OK, great. Awesome. I think that's about 50-50, so I'm very happy with that. I hope you got some value out of those 2 workshops. We're going to delve into this third one as well. And this one is going to help you understand fees. So it should give most people extra added value, because we know the how and the why. But now when we're using Bitcoin, you need to know the way in which fees work, because they play a part in every single transaction. And they divide it into these weird things called UTXOs, which you might have heard about, and it is jargon, but I'm going to demystify what that jargon is for you guys so it makes a bit more sense. So the objective, I kind of just spoke about it there a little bit, but we're going to foster a clear understanding of Bitcoin transaction fees, confirmation speeds, and the role of layer 2 solutions. Now, I want to preface this as well with, in my head, I have like 12 different workshops, and I've had to cut a lot of what I can do. But tomorrow I'm going to be doing a mining workshop, which I already mentioned, and we can also do a layer 2 workshop as a small table. I was also talking to some ladies over on the table here, and they had questions as well. I'll be available all tomorrow from the start of the event to the end of the event, sat down with my laptop, all the materials we used today, and if you have any questions or if you want to do an extra workshop, come and see me. It'll be my pleasure to do so. If there's something that you didn't understand today or something that we haven't touched upon, please do come and see me. I want to make sure that everybody leaves with at least one question answered. So that's tomorrow. But let's get back into this one. Foster care and clear understanding of Bitcoin fees. So what are Bitcoin fees? What are Bitcoin fees and how do they work? So we're going to step aside from Bitcoin for a moment, and we're going to look at fees that we understand and fees that we know and fees that we've used in the past, which is at the post office. You're sending something, and to send it, you pay fees. So let's have a look at this experience. In your baskets, and this is the last time we're going to be using these magical baskets, are paper envelopes, plastic envelopes, and on them there should be a set of 5 items to send and a piece of paper that says most expensive and least expensive. It's a separate one from the white paper and workshop 2. You should be able to see it in there. And you can pull out all those pieces of paper. They're purple, by the way. They match the same color as the one behind me. So all the purple, yeah, you got it right there. Excellent. Yeah, we got it right there. Excellent. So we're going to be using these pieces of paper because you have most expensive, least expensive, and 5 small items. Let's check them out. OK, so we imagine that we're going to ship these items. So first of all, if we look at this image behind me, you're at home. The first thing you do is you package the item. and then we take it to the post office and drop it off. And then it goes through a network of shipping, dispatching, and it arrives at the other side. Bitcoin's the same as that, essentially. We package what we want to send, we hand it over to the post office, it goes through the network and arrives at the other side. So it's very similar to sending something, and we pay for these fees. And Bitcoin works just that same way. There's a lot of stuff in between this transaction here. It's not from hand left to hand B. There's a process, and we have to know this process to be able to use the network effectively. So my materials have been handed out. If I can parachute drop all my volunteers, can you just throw me a hand again? See where everybody is? Great. If anything's not working out, if you're stuck, reach out to one of the volunteers, and they'll be able to help you out. OK, so we have different items. You have 5 items on your table. And as a table, I'd like you to send each one of these items to our mayor, Ken Sim. He's in Vancouver, so it's not very far. It's just down the road. But if we were to send these 5 items in the mail, how much do you think they would cost? Post Canada. We're not going to go UPS, FedEx, or anything. We're going to trust in these institutions that they gave us. We're going to proudly use Canada Post. So if you go to the Canada Post desk and you want to send these 5 pictures, how much do you think they would cost? Now, on the middle of your table, you have a green strip, right? You see the green tape? On one side, I'd like you to put the most expensive piece of paper. And on the other side of that green line, I'd like you to put the most, did I say most or least? Either way, make a scale, most to least expensive. I can tell I've had lunch. I'm a little bit groggy here, but my volunteers know what I'm talking about, I hope. So can you walk around and just make sure everybody's got that scale? Most expensive to least expensive. And then be able to organize some of these items. And imagine you're sending them to the mayor. Place them in order and have the discussions. Which ones are the most expensive to send? And which ones are the least expensive? I'm going to come down and have the conversation with you. I'll give you about maybe 4 or 5 minutes. 4 or 5 minutes. Okay. I think everybody's kind of had time to weigh everything up here. We've looked at what's most expensive and what's least expensive, and it's a pretty easy activity. Nice and slow after lunch, but you're having the conversation, and that's what we want to think about. Why? So let's take a look. You lined up the 5 items from the least expensive to the most expensive, and I think most people got there quickly, and I think most tables agreed with each other. There wasn't a lot of discussion about, no, that's not the case. It wasn't like the trade game. Like, we had consensus very quickly. Maybe a little bit of discussion about the flammability of a cigarette lighter, but most of the people, most of the time, agree that there's a certain order. And I'm not sure if there's a microphone with one of my volunteers somewhere, but I'd like to know if you guys think for a second, what decides the shipping fees of these 5 items? What are the characteristics that are assessed and evaluated as we ship things? How do they decide what's expensive and what's not? Weight and size. Yeah, I'm hearing weight and size down here. That's essentially it. Any other characteristics anybody thinks? Weight and size? Yep. Value? Yeah, sometimes you might want to sign something and add a value to it. So the seed phrase that I gave might be super valuable. Absolutely. Anything else? Yep. The speed. All right. So in this activity, we just looked at mainly the size, the dimensions, and mainly the weight. Most tables agreed that those were the things that would decide on the values. But now we're going to change it up because we were sending everything to Mayor Ken, right? What happens when the destination changes? I want to also, I always like teaching second things throughout my activities. So at the bottom here, we have 5 different Bitcoin projects across the world. On the left, we have the Bitcoin Bazaar in Paris. After that, we have Bitcoin Park in Nashville, Tennessee. After that, we have Bitcoin Akazi in South Africa. And then we have the Bitcoin Jungle in Costa Rica. And finally, we have more local, Comex Valley on the island of Vancouver. So if we're shipping the same items, but to different destinations, and bearing in mind the size and the weight as well, so destination, size, and weight, does the order change? Does something become more or less expensive? I want you to look at the list you have and decide if anything changes. So just to refresh you, from left to right, Bitcoin Bazaar, Paris, France. Bitcoin Park, Nashville, Tennessee. Bitcoin Akazi, South Africa. Bitcoin Jungle, Costa Rica. And then we have Comex Valley here in BC. I'll give you another 2 minutes. Try and find out if anything changes on that list. It might not, but maybe the destination plays a factor as well. Let's see if it does. So we're back, we're back, we're back. So orders changed, maybe. Maybe things got a bit more expensive when we had to send them further. Let's have a look. All right, so we can have a look when we're changing the destination about what changed and why did it change. You probably had conversations about, well, to send this to Africa versus Europe, it's kind of the same maybe distance, but maybe the system costs a bit more, maybe the infrastructure isn't as developed, or maybe it was something totally different. Maybe you think that UTXO was the cheapest out of Europe, or not. We don't really know. I don't work for Post Canada, by the way, and this is certainly not an advocation of their services. But it's just interesting to find out how the destination of the package can change the price, or at least make us think about, is it going to cost me more to send something further, right? We're going to add in one final element now, and this is the idea of importance or urgency. So now we have 4 characteristics. We have the size, we have the weight, we have the destination, and now we have the speed or the urgency. How quick does it want to get there? So the Bitcoin seed on the left is like a piece of paper. It's a paper seed, and it needs to go to Paris in 7 days. The white paper, which is 9 pages, needs to go to Bitcoin Park in Nashville, and it needs to get there within 24 hours. They have an event tomorrow. The Bull Bitcoin lighters, well, we're sending them out, and we need to get them there by this time next week, so 7 days. The Bitcoin Standard, well, everything's a bit slower in LATAM, so 31 days is fine to send something to Costa Rica. Whereas Comics Value is a growing circular economy, and they want to plug their miner in as soon as possible. They're going to finish learning Bitcoin, and they're going to start mining, so we need to get that there in 24 hours. So we have 3 different types of deadline. I want you to apply this to the shipping and find out if the order of these items now changes based on its urgency. I'll give you another few more minutes, and I'm going to walk around this time. All right, I'm going to check in with my table over here. Oh, you guys got a jade as well. Our last workshop, we're going to look at the jade as well. We'll be using, on our last workshop, workshop 6, we're going to be looking at the jade. We'll do a full setup so you can follow along. Yeah. No, I'm here. All right, so least expensive is the seed phrase. Most expensive is the white paper. You're pretty much following the original order, right?
Yeah, we kind of were
Most
discussing
expensive
amongst
has to go to, yeah, well, that has to go along.
Yeah.
But then so does that. It has to go to Africa. 7 days, though.
I,
Okay.
I think 7 days to Africa is going to cost me a lot if I just think about it. I just get that feeling it's going to be like an expensive ship, whereas 7 days to Europe is probably going to be less. I think even if the package, especially because the package is bigger, right? 3 lighters is going to be like a bit heavier, whereas like 1 seed phrase might be like an easy ship. Yeah. I mean, there's no right answer. It's just we're just thinking about stuff.
anticipating what point you're making.
So am I sometimes. I'm like, where am I going with this? Okay, you guys managed to work out something that you agree upon, more or less?
I think so.
Excellent. All right, perfect, perfect. I think a lot of people have got there. So we've got different types of lists. Some people are asking me, Pablo, why are we doing this? I want to get to the point. Okay, so let's have a look at Bitcoin fees and how these things work. So we saw that we were looking at things based on their size, their weight, the destination, and their importance or urgency. Now let's do the Bitcoin part, right? Because that's why we're here. We've been to the post office. We don't want to go back ever again, trust me. I send too much stuff in the mail, and every time it's a nightmare. When we send things via the postal office or UPS or FedEx in the physical world, dimensions, weight, destination, and priority are mainly the categories that are used when determining fees. Bitcoin's different, though. Bitcoin, it doesn't matter what the value of the Bitcoin transaction is. It doesn't matter either about the destination. What matters is the size of the transaction, not the value, but the size of the transaction and the priority. So we can see some similarities, but we can also see some differences. And this is the point of the workshop. I want to show you how it's the same, but different. So let's have a look at this idea of what is size and what is value, because this is what people sometimes struggle to understand with Bitcoin. And we'll just use fiat currency for the moment. So on the left-hand side, we have the size of the transaction, which can be 4 25-cent coins or $1 coin. And on the right-hand side, we have the value. Now, these both have the same value, right? $1, 25 times 4, we get to $1 as well. Bitcoin works the same as cash in this aspect. Bitcoin is divisible, right? That's why it's better than gold, because we can chop it down into little parts and bits. And these parts of Bitcoin are what sit on our wallet. We don't just have the balance. The balance on a Bitcoin wallet is the sum of all of its parts. And these parts, or bits, or whatever we want to call them, are technically called UTXOs. This is what a UTXO stands for, an unspent transaction output. It's the jargon that people use, but it's what determines the fees, and this is why this is important. Because we need to know what the size of our transaction is before we send it, because that's going to determine our fees. So if we have 4 UTXOs on the left, and each one of them is a quarter of a Bitcoin, well, the value of the transaction is 1 Bitcoin, but its size is actually 4 UTXOs. But it doesn't have to be nice, round numbers. Bitcoin is digital, it's divisible, and we can go into all sorts of weird, smaller and larger amounts of UTXOs. So we can have 0.21, 0.055, 0.001, and 0.484, and if my maths is okay, that still adds up to 1 Bitcoin. But it's 4 UTXOs, and that's what will determine how much it costs to send this, not the value. So now let's get back and let's see if my analogy works, and maybe it will, maybe it won't, but this is why I'm doing these objects, is like I want you to imagine that the seed phrase and the white paper and the 3 Bitcoin lighters and the 2 Bitcoin standards and the 1 ASIC miner are actually bits of Bitcoin. Imagine they're a UTXO. So one seed phrase is a unit of 1. And one ASIC miner is a unit of 1. And an ASIC miner costs a lot of money. It costs way more than the seed phrase to manufacture. But the Bitcoin network sees these as equal because they have the same size, even though they don't have the same value. So I want to see if you can reorder now these items as if they were UTXOs. So the seed phrase is 1, and the Bitcoin standard is 2, and the miner is 1, and the lighters are now 3. So it would cost a lot more to send the lighters than the miner. Try and reorganize everything based on the size of these items if they were bits of Bitcoin. If you need help with this, it's theoretical. My volunteers are going to walk around and give some guidance, but just try and organize this as if the objects are now UTXOs. I'll give you another couple of minutes. It should change a little bit. Got a question. Some people are saying, do we include priority? Yeah, include priority with this thing. I can see and hear my Bitcoiners helping out other non-Bitcoiners. We got a technical question. Some people are asking me if destination and priority. Destination doesn't matter, but priority does. So make sure they get there within the time frames. Hey, all right. So I did notice that there was a bit of an issue with the slides. You cannot see which one has which priority. So I do apologize for that. But we had the conversation. We looked at some UTXOs as being units of Bitcoin and how the fees change depending on that. One of the coolest things about Bitcoin is it's not the destination that matters. So we can be sending something to France or Australia or to Comox Valley, and it costs the same because, like sending an email, we're using the internet. And the internet is our global network, which is destination agnostic. We had a good conversation about, yes, but not everybody has access to the internet, and I think that's a really valid point. And I think it's something that we should be aware of. But if we're looking at the strongest network, the internet is definitely that. It's certainly stronger than Canada Post and UPS and FedEx put together, in my opinion, because it reaches every single corner of the world. Now with things like Starlink and our cell phones in our pockets, we're pretty much online all the time. So an internet money really makes a lot of sense. But when we understand the fee part of things, it starts to make even more sense. We had a conversation of, I know this QR code's not working actually, so I'm going to skip along. We had a conversation about fees and thinking about why things cost, how much they cost to get sent. UTXOs is slightly complex, and there's a way that you can manage your own UTXOs. But as long as you're aware that it's the amount of bits in your wallet and not the balance, that's a really key takeaway. So I'd like you guys to think about that. Next time you're sending Bitcoin, have a look at the fees, and then try and think about the UTXOs, because each bit of Bitcoin is required to calculate the fees. So these are the end of our theoretical workshops. We're going to take maybe like a real quick 2, 3, 4 minutes. Ben's going to join me on stage, and we're going to do what you guys probably know and like best, actually, which is delving into some of the tools. We're going to look at Bull Bitcoin next, and how the exchange works, and how the wallet works. So we'll give a quick turnaround on stage. If you need to get water or washroom, grab a couple minutes, and we'll be right back to follow up with this. Thank you.